building off of what we talked about before, could you talk about what are the underlying mechanisms involved with anxiety, and do you have any illustrations that you might use?
The illustration I use, I think, is not uncommon. It's sort of like the movie Inside Out, where they picture the 5 emotions, and fear or anxiety is one of them. So I often do have clients picture their anxiety as a voice or a persona in their head that's trying to take over control of the steering wheel. It's trying to protect the mechanism, the person, from whatever the perceived threat is.
Okay.
And anxiety is related to threat, and it's as if anxiety is saying, let me drive, I can take us to safety.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a very intense kind of threat level, then anxiety is going to do very primitive things like, say, run or freeze or scream or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's a very simplistic reaction to perceived threat, which you and I would have the same response if somebody came in here with guns blazing. Our threat level would shoot to the roof and we would react. If the threat is more imaginary or perceived or something that could happen, then anxiety tends to generate all the what-if sentences, again trying to convince the mind to let anxiety control the mechanism and get us to safety. Mm-hmm. So when you understand this is a driving force that, because of perceived threat, if a client can begin to picture, oh, this is not all of me, this is just that part of me, this defense mechanism is kicking in. I will say this, generally I think anxiety, like many of the core emotions, symptoms have 2 real purposes. The first one, and this is interesting because it sounds paradoxical, the first one is that anxiety or threat is drawing attention to something unprocessed. Mm-hmm. Like it's pointing to an area of our life or our story or a memory or something where there's buried or contained levels of uncertainty or anxiety that is being provoked by what is happening now. If it's not natural, I mean, we're all naturally afraid of lots of things, but when we have an anxiety that we think, I don't think other people are anxious like I am about this, that's pointing to something in the story.
So unprocessed pain.
Unprocessed pain or wounds or something you haven't even faced necessarily.
Exactly.
So the symptom points to that, but the symptom also tries to draw the attention away from that, because there's a threat in looking at what's, so anxiety is trying to get you thinking about anxiety, not what's underneath it. So it's sort of like a mother bear would draw the hunter's attention away from her vulnerable cubs. So she's going to run one way, so the cubs are left safe. So anxiety actually tries to draw our minds away from where the action is, because that's the defense. I don't want you to look at these unresolved or unfinished areas of pain or wound or loss. So I'm going to get you thinking about anxiety, not the pain.